If you're unfamiliar with this, a simple way is to open the acetylene valve a 1/16 to an 1/8 of a turn, light the torch, and slowly increase the acetylene until the flame just about quits producing the soot or smoke. This amount of gas should come close to producing the right size flame. Once the acetylene is adjusted, slowly open the oxygen valve. You'll start with a long flame, and as you increase the oxygen, a small cone will appear right at the tip. The idea is to keep adding oxygen until the long flame and the inner cone come together to form a nice sharp cone. Let's see what this looks like. I'll open the acetylene valve, and I'll slowly increase the acetylene until it just about quits producing the smoke. Also, notice how the flame has started to feather out on the end. I'll start adding oxygen, and the cone will appear right at the tip. Keep adding oxygen until the long flame comes together to form a nice sharp cone. This is called a neutral flame, and this is what you want. If you add too much oxygen, it's called an oxidizing flame. Notice how the inner cone is thinned out and the increase in the rushing noise of the torch. Back to a neutral flame. If you don't add enough oxygen, the inner cone won't be sharp. And this is called a reducing flame. There's an excess of acetylene here. I'll add a little more oxygen, get back to a neutral flame. When I adjust the size flame on my torch, I like it right at the point where it makes a little noise. But regardless of the tip size or size flame you use, always adjust the oxygen and acetylene to get a neutral flame. Now, to shut this torch off, close the acetylene first, then the oxygen. That way the oxygen snuffs out the flame and fire doesn't go back down the torch. This is easy to remember because you turn the acetylene on first and you turn the acetylene off first. Now, when you've adjusted the torch to a neutral flame, if the inner cone isn't sharp or maybe it's angling to one side, your tip is dirty. Use the tip cleaners to dress up the face and clean the orifice. You need a clean tip to focus and concentrate the heat of the flame where you want it, and it does make a difference. Always keep your tip clean. I'd like to visit a little more about adjusting the flame. In welding, if the molten puddle comes in contact with the oxygen in the air, the metal will oxidize or burn. This will cause little pockets of gas, called porosity, to form in the weld bead. When the oxyacetylene torch burns, there's a chemical reaction between the carbon molecules in the acetylene and oxygen molecules from the oxygen, helped along by the heat of the flame. This chemical reaction produces carbon dioxide and purges air away from the molten metal. When you have a neutral flame, this chemical reaction happens just like it's supposed to. With a reducing flame that has an excess of acetylene, carbon molecules can be deposited in the molten puddle, making the weld brittle. An oxidizing flame with too much oxygen can oxidize or burn the puddle, possibly leaving porosity. So here again, always adjust the torch to a neutral flame.